All right, everyone, welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trade. Today is Tuesday, June 13th, 2023. If you're not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Anyways, let's get into it today. So, market's up exactly 0.2% here on the spiders. Triple Qs here up 77 basis points and Dow up 43. So markets here having a green day, little gap up. Obviously the big news story of the day was the CPI number, which basically came in as expected. Yesterday I said, it's almost like it was leaked because you just got this random call buying spree that took place at 2:30, and then of course the number came in. We gapped up, had a little bit of a fade in the morning, really extended there on the Nasdaq. I talked about this morning. If you look at the NQ futures and you just flip on the Bollinger Bands, take a look at that. We're right up into that top band with it pointing down. We had to just kind of tighten here, and we talked about this this morning. The range is going to kind of tighten, and that's what happened throughout the day as we basically went nowhere after the initial pop. So right now, Fed funds futures basically pricing in, I think it's like a 1% chance of a rate hike tomorrow. So it does look like the Fed's going to pause here. The July meeting is a little bit mixed right now. But it's strange because Fed fund futures a little bit diverged here from the market. Take a look at ZB. So 30-year down 52 basis points here today. Got a pop initially and then just immediately came back down. And all I keep hearing about is this big mega short squeeze that's going to happen in bonds. I've been hearing it for 3 years. And we're still, not that far off the lows here. Take a look at the two-year yield today. That was up another 8.4 basis points. And again, hammering on that 460, 461 area. That's a pretty bullish looking candle. So this looks like it wants to go and test 5. Almost got kind of like a cup and handle type look. So up move and then kind of just this rounded kind of bottom here. If this flags up, this is going to go head towards 5. So I guess the Fed funds futures, or I should say the 2-year yield is kind of calling bluff on this move, or at least calling bluff on the fact that the Fed's going to pause, or I should say not pause, but start cutting and start a loosening cycle. So I guess we're probably going to get that test here. If that holds, maybe then you can make that case. But right now it looks like it wants to go up there and test that theory. Why is the market rallying then if bonds are just, we've talked about the relationship between QQQ and TLT. Well, the answer right now is just we're in a quad witching week, and I think you're just seeing a lot of put decay, right? A lot of people were seeing the same thing in the tape, right? Recession coming, rising yields, inverted yield curve, basically all these geopolitical problems. And, if you're buying puts in March and April, when are you buying for them? When are most funds buying them for? Probably a quarterly expiration. What's this Friday? A quarterly OPEX. And then you have AI come and save the day. Well, those puts are going to be way out of the money, which means dealers are going to buy back stock. And you're having this, we're seeing the power of a buyback rally there. So that's something to consider here. But I'm very interested to see how this market trades after OPEX. We do have Treasury issuance as well on Thursday. That's going to be the big moment of truth for me. Some people are saying, reverse repo is going to soak it all up. Look, we had reverse repo all last year, and it didn't do anything to soak up that Treasury issuance that came out in December and January 2021. So lots of stuff to watch here. I do think, though, tomorrow, as far as levels are concerned, we'll be looking at 4,400 on the SPX. For the SPY, it's basically just shy of there, and I believe there is some gamma up there. But really what we're looking at here on resistance is this big red bar here, that breakdown, and then you're kind of just coming into this essentially a bear flag breakdown, and a lot of resistance in that red bar. 440 whole round number. The NQ as well coming into a pretty good area here, 15,250. I like this level. And you can see here, we've had a really massive run up here. And outside of this pivot, if we look on a weekly, there's just not a lot of there's a lot of real estate here that can be checked. We're very close to resistance and very far away from support, and we didn't build any supports on the way up. So just some things to consider here, but markets, again, hanging in there. Again, obviously liking that inflation has backed off, although core inflation has remained steady for a while. But either way, it's all about what Powell says tomorrow. Again, I do think we probably get a pop on the actual news that the Fed pauses the Fed statement. And it's about what Powell says after that. And then, of course, we'll have to see Thursday. A lot of the time, a lot of people say it's not the Wednesday of FOMC, it's the Thursday to see what the real move is going to be. But then we have, remember, lots of rebalancing this week on Friday. So that's also something to consider. So I think next week, even more so, will be more telling. But either way here, those are the levels we're watching on the markets. On the downside here, if you get back below 430, then, that opens the door back to gap fill there, 421 on the SPY. Russell 2000, that probably will get up to that 190 to 192 handle. So watch for that here. That had a nice move, outside move today. Just like everything else, up 1.15%. And again, the KRE doing a lot of that legwork there, up 2.32. So that reversed all of yesterday's losses. This is a nice move here, or a nice pullback pattern here for a pop to 46. So again, keep that on your radar, and that is helping the Russell out right now. I don't think it has much more gas than that, but right now that's what the KRE is suggesting it wants to do. Dow finally got to, we've probably been talking about this for 2 months now. We got to 343, pierced it, and then came right back in, right? So kind of a double, triple-ish top, if you want to call it that. It's a little sloppy, but you're going up into this area here. We had the big outside move, and then we broke down. So lots of bulls kind of stuck there, and that's where we backed off of from Dow here. Maybe you can get up to 345 even. So I wouldn't rule that out right now, especially if you get like a euphoria move. But again, it did finally tag that 343 level. Never quite got there in May. We talked about that, and it just came up just short, and then pulled back all the way down to 325 area. And now rallying back up there. So that did finally hit that target. Anyways, so we mentioned yields a little bit. Let's look at the 10-year though. 10-year, same thing, right? So that, this doesn't look like a bearish candle to me at all. Selling off in the morning and then rallying up, closing above the high from last week. And take out this pivot. You'll have a gap fill there, but really 4% is the big level for me on the 10-year. 30-year, same thing, same type of candle, down early and then nice rally up. 4%, you get through that. This can go all the way to 4.2. So watch out for the 30-year here and watch out for yields. I do think they want to test those highs, probably sooner rather than later. Anyways, let's get over to the housing market. Actually, let's do our semis first. SMH here, new high, or new 52-week highs rather. And you're really less than 4% away from all-time highs. Pretty remarkable move here for the SMH. We'll see how this does, but lots of, the markets have remained defiant here. And look at this move, by the way. So 118 to 153, let's just do that really quick. So that's a 30% move here since April 27th. It's just unbelievable here. Very overbought, into a lot of resistance. But hey, as long as they keep this, as long as dealers are buying back stock, and until that TGA refill starts, they have liquidity here. So that's the kind of nature of it. But semis did leave a little bit of a hanging man there. NVIDIA did catch a bid today. But again, semis holding up. Now, what did kind of turn around a little bit here is IGV. So it still finished green, up 0.2%. It was up a lot more. And we got to talk about Oracle. This is a market leader right now. That hit a new all-time high yesterday. And then again today, they reported earnings. They got upgraded yesterday. They reported earnings. They went all the way up here, opened higher, and then, it's barely closed green. It went red, and then they kind of saved it here in the last second. So a little bit of a gap and crap, or maybe a mega gap and crap even. You're talking about 124 to 116.68 in the span of one session. So pretty big move for a stock that's, generally kind of medium beta. It's not super high beta. And you did this on volume too. So it looks like there was definitely some sellers coming in here and taking profits on this. And Oracle's a market leader, so we got to watch this, right? So this makes up a huge chunk of IGV now. And IGV here, if we look on a weekly, you're kind of coming into these pivots here. So this is kind of your bear flag breakdown from early 2022, and we're getting into these levels. Let's put on a daily so we can kind of pinpoint it. Yeah, we did. Looks like where's this gap here? Just want to get this exact. So 345 and 1 cent, and then 344.75. So it didn't quite fill the gap, but for all intents and purposes, it's basically there. But either way, getting into these levels now, and watch Oracle tomorrow. If you get follow through to the downside, that could be a pretty significant top there. But either way, IGV coming off the highs still finishing green. Dow Transport's nothing terrible. Again, if this consolidates more, this can get through 14.5. Again, we talked about that level, 14.4 to 14.5. You got a little bit of a pullback, so maybe this can get one more little pop here. And then the next level, if you can get through that, is 14.750, but we'll have to watch this going into the end of the week. All right, now on to home builders here. XHB, another 52-week high. Remember, that can still get to 77, maybe 77.50. So high of the day, 76.82. That's still holding up. ITB here holding up, although it did come off the highs. No volume, though, so that can still go higher. VNQ still has an inside bar. But again, you failed, you consolidated at this level for like 2 months and you failed. So, I don't know. You have a higher low. That's your positive here. I just don't love it. On the weekly, not a really good pattern here anyway you look at it. But if it does push up, again, 85.50 to 86 is the next kind of area. XLF here, green. Basically coming into this little double top. You have the 100 and 200 moving average above there, so that may need to do some stalling out here. But it's had a nice little pop off the lows, and we'll respect it for now. We already talked about KRE. That should still get to 46. XBD, that's consolidating as well. If this consolidates further, we'd have to do some numbers on it, but I would say probably 475 to 480 would be your next kind of area. But for right now, it's stalled out at that, double top area, and it's just kind of consolidating. Anyways, over to crude here. So that got a bounce today, up 3%. Still, lower highs though. And what do you have? Essentially like equal lows going back to, if you just cut this out and cut out that tail, equal lows here, lower highs. So not really the best look. In fact, we can kind of even draw it in here. So it's like you got kind of this lower high, almost like a descending triangle. There you go. So you're hitting this level, hitting this level, hitting this level. Each bounce gets you less and less. You put in one more lower high, this can break. And then, really your support is way down here. So this is, you have a level here, but you've consolidated for a long time. So it can cut right through that. So just be careful with crude here. I think it probably has one more good dip, and then I think it'll be time to get into this. But right now it's still kind of chopping around. XLE as well, up 0.5%. It did give back a lot of those gains. XOP, same thing, up 1%, gave back a lot of the gains. Nothing crazy there. And then OIH, all over the map today, but did close near the lows. It's still up 2%. It's hammering on 280 though. If this consolidates more, it can get through that. But that's the big level to watch going into the end of the week. Nat gas holding up nicely. That was up about 3% on the day. Again, still kind of stuck in this channel. You have a little micro bull flag in there. We'll see if that can follow through going towards the end of the week. Remember, quad witch too. So this is not just stocks, it's commodities, nat gas, oil, everything else. Just remember that. All right, dollar index. Still stuck in this area here. So we do have a micro kind of bearish inside bar there on the daily, but we had a chance to break down earlier and it came off the lows. Interested to see what it does tomorrow. On the weekly, you still have an inside bar here. So weekly pattern's more dominant. We're above the 20 MA still. I like the pattern for an advance. And even so, you have support at 102.75 anyway. So dollar index holding up right now. And again, it was red on the day, but you had, supposedly this is, CPI is supposedly, so cold and inflation is defeated and the Fed's going to start dropping rates, but the dollar's still like holding up. Yields, as we mentioned here, went red to green. So just something to consider here. I think dollar is still showing relative strength. Just keep that in mind. Anyways, gold here. Again, another red day. Still kind of hammering on this area. If this puts in enough of a base on the daily, I think it can have a leg down. Again, watch that 20-week moving average. If you get below that, it's probably headed right to 1900. So just be aware of gold right now. But outside of that, no real updates at the moment. But, if we continue to put in that bear base there on the daily, that can go lower. Same thing with silver. That did back off. It tried to have a nice pop early and then came in, rolled over. Again, on the weekly, still stuck below that 24.50 handle. I still think it needs to go down and test 21. But either way, silver lower on the day. Platinum also lower here. That wants to test 960 right now. I wouldn't do anything with it at the moment. And then palladium Got a little bit of a bounce here, but nothing crazy. Still kind of watching that one for pattern. Copper had a nice move. This probably wants to go test 390, maybe 393, but that's all I have penciled in for it at the moment. All right, over here to Bitcoin lastly. So Bitcoin's still stuck at that 26,000 handle. Again, nothing's changed here. You're inside of this green bar. That's the positive. If you close below that, it's a big negative. We did lose the 20-week moving average on a weekly close, so that is a negative as well. And you do have a kind of an inside red bar there on the weekly, but it's inside of a bigger red bar, or a bigger green bar rather. So again, still kind of neutral here. You know, I would like to say that I'm bearish on it, but you know how Bitcoin can be. It does nothing for a while, and then all of a sudden it just wakes up. So, you know, I can't rule out having one more pop here, but either way, still inside of that range, and nothing has really changed there, so nothing too new to say. Anyways, spiders here, again, look for that 440 handle tomorrow, SPX 4400. NQ is going to be 15,250 for the QQQ, for those of you who follow the triple Qs. Probably about, I don't know if 370 is good because there's been that dividend there, but if going off the NQ, this is kind of the level I'm watching. On the QQQ, it's probably like 368, I would say. It's not quite to those pivots, but either way, it's a pretty good levels here to watch going into tomorrow. Again, remember, it's not about the Fed statement, it's about what Powell says after, and it's about the market's reaction. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if he's a super dove or a super hawk. What matters is what the market does. Anyways, guys, going to wrap it up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. Talk to you all tomorrow.